All right, guys, what's up? Give me 1 second. The lighting in here is bad. There we go. That's better. The lighting was a bit shit. So give me a second. We're going to share this on our socials. Guys, if you're not following us on Facebook, do it now. Boxing News Today is our group. I'm putting the link there. Instagram just started that page probably 2 weeks ago. So we have like 10 followers. So if you want to follow Boxing News Today on Instagram, appreciate you. Today we're going to do a fight preview and predictions. I've already done my prediction videos for the three main fights. Obviously, we're talking about Matias versus Pero, Benavidez versus Vostick. And today, about an hour ago, I just released Gervonta Davis and Frank Martin. If you've been watching the last month, I've done videos on the upcoming fight, and I've given you guys reasons why each fighter would win. Now, in the last few days, I'm telling you my prediction, and I want to talk about that. Feel free to join in. Talk to me about what fight you're most looking forward to. I mean, we didn't even talk about the undercard too, man. We get Gary Antoine Russell's back. I think he's one of boxing's best kept secrets. I'm going to share this to the Facebook group real quick, and then I'll be all yours. Give me 1 second. Just popping it there. Put your requests. What do you guys want to talk about? We got the odds to talk about. We got the favorites. Who's going to win? Will we see upsets? Will we see and new? Will it be and still? All that good stuff. It's a big weekend of boxing. If you're wondering why I'm not wearing a hat or a hoodie, I have a 7-year-old communion to go to with my girlfriend in about an hour. So I wanted to do this now, and I hope everyone's having a good weekend. We're live. Also, guys, I'm coming from Sydney, Australia, so it's Saturday morning here. And if you're coming from America, Friday evening, Friday afternoon, thank you for tuning in. And if you want to get started, I wasn't able to do a live yesterday because I was just so busy, but there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we mentioned, let's start with the Pero Matias fight and talk about my prediction. So the prediction video is doing pretty decent. It's at about 1,000 views. Like I said, I've only been doing this for about a year. If you're following my page and supporting me, thank you. There's many other YouTubers with way more followers than me, so I appreciate your time and you guys valuing my opinion. I put a lot of energy and effort into this, and boxing is one of my passions. I not only write about the sport, I talk about it, I train. It's been part of my life since I was 7 years old. So my whole approach is going to be an unbiased opinion, and I want to educate people on what boxing is really about. And some of these biggest fights, it's not always about who we love to cheer for. So when it came to my prediction for Matias and Pero, I was telling you guys, like, look, I was using advice given to me from my dad when I was a kid, and he'd always say, Johnny, bet with your wallet, not with your heart. And this is why I took Matias, and which is shocking to some of you guys because all week I was getting bashed in my Facebook group and in the comment section because people either only read titles to videos and they don't listen to the whole thing. I did a video on why I thought Liam Pero was going to beat Matias. That's all I said. I did a video on how Liam Pero will beat Matias, not why I think, but if he executes this strategy, Pero could be successful. I did that, got all these haters, Matias haters, saying that I'm an idiot, and they didn't realize that I wasn't saying Pero was going to win. I was giving Liam Pero fans an outlet or a navigational map to kind of follow during the fight. Now, during my prediction video, if you watched, I picked Subriel Matias to win. And the reasons for this, and I talked about the Conor McGregor analogy. If you guys watch MMA, in 2015, McGregor hadn't been a champion yet. They had hosted their first card in Dublin, Ireland, and the whole card was filled with his gym buddies from SBG Ireland. You had Paddy the Hooligan Houlihan, Cathal Pendred, Neil Seary, all these guys from Ireland. And Conor, after the fight, after he won, he said, you know, it would have taken a special talent to come into Ireland to beat one of us tonight, and that just didn't happen. It was a clean sweep, and that was one of the reasons why I don't see Pero going into Puerto Rico and beating Subriel. And something I thought about when I was in the sauna earlier that I didn't mention in the prediction video is that Pero didn't get to Puerto Rico until 3 days ago, 4 days ago. There is an acclimation process. I fly back and forth to America twice a year. From Sydney to Los Angeles, it's 15 hours straight. From Los Angeles to Cleveland, where my hometown is, it's another 5 hours. So that's 20 hours of flight, multiple different time zones. Puerto Rico is on the East Coast time zone, so that's aligned with the U.S. I know Liam had to fly to either Houston or L.A. first to get to Miami, and then he had to go to Miami to Puerto Rico because there's no straight shots from Australia to Puerto Rico. So he only gets there a few days. He only gets to Puerto Rico just this week. I don't think that that's a wise decision. I mean, based on the body and jet lag, you need time to acclimate. So that's something that I didn't even think about in the video to mention. But now that I think of, that's not going to play in Pero's favor. And also, I mean, you're in Puerto Rico, some of the most intense and passionate boxing fans on earth. Think about all the Puerto Rican legends that have come before Matias, and think about the fighters that Matias is comparing himself to. I know that Felix Trinidad is in his corner, and Trinidad gives him a lot of tips and tricks. And when you have that in your corner, when you have your hometown, when you have this big fight where you're headlining, when the title is on the line, it's for the 140-pound IBF strap. There's a reason Pero is a 6-1 underdog, and all that. It's tough to bet against Matias. I mean, I just spent 6 minutes, and I didn't even talk about Matias's knockout to win ratio, which you guys, I spared you because it's all I ever talk about. Cheers. Now let's take a look at what they looked at. I want to show you guys, if you missed the weigh-ins, what Pero and Matias looked like at their weigh-ins. Here we go.
This is an evenly matched matchup right here. It's for size and everything except power.
Yeah, very tough opponent, Liam Paro, who is peaking right now as a fighter coming off that big win over Montana Lowe.
That's intense. I got to be honest with you. Unless I can't see their feet, what they're wearing. But Matias looks way bigger than Pero. I know they both weighed in at the contractual weight, but height side by side, look at that. Matias looks like he's maybe an inch or two taller than Pero. But, sometimes depending on what shoes you wear, I know some of the MMA fighters wear Nikes at the weigh-ins, and the Nikes have the big heel. But we'll see during fight night if the height is the same, because on paper, they're saying that Liam Pero is a little bit taller, but I don't see it. And Matias looks bigger all around. And that's going to be a banger. I can't wait for that one. The second one I broke down this week and did a prediction video was the David Benavidez and Alex Gvozdyk fight. And I'm going to show you, before we show the weigh-ins, something that I talked about during my prediction video that I'm kind of worried about now is the fact that in the video I sided with Benavidez. I talked about him being the younger fighter. I talked about career trajectories. When you see the 27-year-old Benavidez, even though he's coming up a weight class he's never fought at, his energy of his career, 28-0, 24 knockouts, it's like this. He talks about wanting to be the face of boxing. When you see Gvozdyk's 37. He's already been a world champion. He beat Adonis Stevenson in 2017. That was almost 8 years ago. He then had a stroke himself. He retired from the sport. And at 37, his career trajectory, it's safe to say he's already been here, and he's been down, and he's kind of here. It's just hard for me to see him shoot back up at 37 years old. Can he do it? Of course. The light heavyweight division, there's been, in the heavier weight classes, guys seem to stick around a little bit longer. It would be a great story because, like I said, he's retired before. He had a stroke before. His career was over before. He took some years off, and then he came back. It was after the Artur Beterbiev fight. He took a lot of damage, got knocked down 3 times. It's his only loss. And so I said all of that, and I picked Benavidez. Now, Gvozdyk is also a 6-1 underdog. Did you guys watch the weigh-ins? And this is where I'm getting a little bit nervous and concerned on my pick. Because when you look at the weigh-ins, you're going to see something. Look at the shape Gvozdyk is in. And I'm going to show you guys a picture in a second. Okay. You would think that Benavidez being the younger guy, Gvozdyk being 10 years older, him being the natural light heavyweight, you would think Gvozdyk would be coming down. I think they weighed in at 174 pounds each. You would think that they're both walking at over 200 pounds. The one kid is in his mid-20s. When they cut the weight, you would think it would be Gvozdyk that would be blown out. But look at these guys' builds. Benavidez looks soft to me. I mean, even at 168, he did cut a lot of weight. He never was shredded. And now at 174, he looks soft to me. His body composition doesn't look right, in my opinion. When you look at him compared to the bigger guy, Vosnik is bodied up, man. His body composition tells me he had a great camp. He's strong. And you know, the Ukrainians do their strength and conditioning is through the roof. Man, that's something that I was not expecting. I've never seen Vosnik look this good on the scales at 37. I mean, I'm 42 and I walk around at about 8% body fat, but I'm a health and conditioning coach. You know, I train for a living. I'm always in shape. He's a 37-year-old former world champion. This guy has a lot. If we did a bio age marker test, he would be way older than me just because of the headshots and damage. I'm very impressed with what Vosnik looks like. Could this just be smoke and mirrors? I mean, I think it might be closer than a 6-1 fight now, just based on what the scales look like. As well as I was rewatching some of Benavidez fights. You know, he doesn't have that good a head movement, and he does throw a lot of shots in front of his opponent where he's giving his opponent both shoulders. So he's never really scissors. He's never really like scissor stance like here when he's throwing his combos because he doesn't do the shoulder. He's more here, and he's throwing here, there to get hit. And he's always just relied on his power in the lower weight classes, knowing that he really couldn't get touched. We've saw him get hurt before, and now I'm just maybe second-guessing my pick. I'm still taking Benavidez because that's a prediction video. But after seeing the weigh-ins, after seeing how professional Vosnik looked, I mean, it wouldn't be a wild bet to throw maybe $10 on him being a live dog. Now, the next one is obviously Gervonta and Frank Martin. Did you guys this? Yesterday was the weigh-in. Let's show you what happened yesterday first with the flinch. I don't know if we talked about this. Gervonta was in a mood yesterday, which I like to see. So this was 2 days ago. That was 2 days ago. He no shows for the grand arrivals 3 days ago. He goes to media day yesterday. Let's show you today at the weigh-ins what he looked like. And he's still been up to he's been a menace. This is him doing a backflip. Talk about that athleticism of Tank Davis, mate. Unbelievable. And here, I'll show you the face-off between him and Frank Martin. They're barking at each other. There's no love lost there. There's no love lost there. So I just put the video up. It posted on YouTube probably an hour ago, and I talked about my prediction. You know, I gave you reasons to take Frank, reasons to take Tank. There's something about boxing, though, at the highest level, with all sports at the highest level, that you can't really measure, that doesn't get put into words or stats. And it's the intangibles, like the energy of the moment, seeing your name on the promenade in lights, seeing Frank Martin, having all the, like, you got to remember when Gervonta won his first title, it was 2017. In 2017, that's the year that Frank Martin turned pro. So all these things in consideration, you know, Frank Martin will have the height advantage. He's 5'8", Tank's 5'5.5". Other than that, you got to give everything else to Tank. I think it's going to be an aggressive fight. I don't think we should expect a Tank Davis to wait too long. In his previous fights, he's played the counter boxer. Some would say he waited too long. He would give early rounds away. And even in, you know, some of his fights, he had to come from behind to get a late stoppage. I don't think that's the Tank we're going to see. I think we're going to see an aggressive one. Frank Martin knows that he has to get Tank Davis's respect early. Tank knows that, and I think Tank's going to stay there. I think we're going to see a firefight. I think it's going to be fun while it lasts. And I'm predicting, and it's really tough. This is also another 6-1 fight, meaning Frank Martin's a 6-1 dog. And I said, I'm going to say now what I said in my prediction videos. How do you bet against Tank Davis? You know, it's so hard to cheer against Frank Martin. You know, I'm a Frank Martin fan. I love how he sounds like in his interviews. He says all the right things. He's the consummate professional. This guy's a samurai. You know, I went to grad school for leadership and personal development. I used to teach communications to corporates and teach them how to public speak. And when I hear Frank Martin talking about how every fight camp of his is an opportunity for him to get better, this is stuff that, you know, corporate people in business suits talk about, developing them themselves. No matter what career path you're in, whatever sector, personal development's really important. You just don't really hear fighters talk too much like that. I think your prediction is wrong. I think you need to double back and work at Frank Martin one more time, bro. I believe your prediction is wrong. Oh, and this is what I'm talking about. And I'm fine with that. Look, you don't have to agree with me. I'm a Frank Martin fan. I cheer for Frank Martin. I just don't see how do you bet against Tank Davis is my point. I like, let's just say Frank Martin is the technician. Let's say Frank Martin, and I also talked about this. The longer the fight goes, I think that's worse for Tank. I think if the fight goes into the later rounds, that's a good thing for Frank Martin. I just don't see Frank being able to withstand that pressure. And I think Tank is going to bully him. And we're just going to see, you know, and if I'm wrong, I'm fine with that. I'm not an anti-Ghost fan. I'm actually a Frank Martin fan. I'm talking about bet with your wallet, not with your heart. And it's hard for me to put money on Frank Martin, him being a 6-1 underdog, and Tank Davis being 29-0, 27 knockouts, him boxing since he was a 5-year-old. You know, there's things in our muscle memory. There's things in our psychology. Frank picks the game up at 18 years old. You know what I mean? By the time Frank turns pro, Tank's already world champion. He's already a champion. He won his first title in 2017. These are the intangibles that it's hard to measure and it's hard to catch up to in a sport like boxing. Let me tell you something. Frank ain't about to get hit with no less, bro. He already understands that. Spoiler alert, Tank is winning predictable fight. Yeah, so that's why boxing's such a great sport. That's why boxing fans are some of the greatest fans, because we don't know what's going to happen. It's just sometimes don't let your emotions get attached to logic and reason from my perspective. You know, I'm sure you guys subscribe to other YouTube channels and they're all jumping, dick riding fighters and jumping on the bandwagon of fighters. You're not going to ever see me do that. I'm a bigger fan of Frank Martin than I am of Tank Davis. But I'm telling you, Tank is going to win. If all you need to know about my channel is this, and this is 100%, I'm a bigger fan of Frank Martin. I cheer for Frank Martin, but he's not going to beat Tank. And that's how I roll, because we're talking about bet with your wallet, not with your heart. And I'm not like a fanboy with any fighter, because I still train and I coach people and I grew up fighting. I'm not going to fanboy any fighter. So I'm not dick riding anybody, but there's some times where I'm going to tell you the guy that I'm friends with, you know, I've been interviewing boxers. I've been writing about them since 2014. There's sometimes my friends are fighting and I'll tell you straight up, they're not going to win. So that's what I'm getting at. Spoiler alert, Tank's going to win. I like your prediction is wrong. Frank hurts him, but Tank needs to step up elite competition. I mean, when you say this whole Tank needs to step up in elite competition, you know, Frank Martin's ranked number 9 in the world in the lightweight at 135 pounds. I think this will be a crossroads fight for that comment, Isaac. I think that you're onto something. I think since Tank has taken a while, longer than he's expected to totally separate himself from Floyd, he's been talking about that more and more, finally being more and more vocal. We've seen this week him and Floyd going back at it on Instagram. And I think part of that, though, is the psychology of Tank really believing in himself that he can take these bigger fights and that he doesn't need a per se safety blanket psychologically and having his back. Now, he beats Frank. Think about all the potential matchups. We already heard Bob Arum talk about earlier this morning that if Tank beats Frank, they're finally making the Lomachenko fight. And you can't fight Frank Martin and take too big of a step back, because if we remember, Shakur Stevenson was supposed to fight Frank Martin. Frank pulls out of the fight. Shakur calls Frank a duck. Frank gets to fight Tank, and Shakur's fighting Harutinian, who Frank already fought. So you know what I'm saying? Like, if we want to play like Tank needs to step his game up, I think these things happen in time. I think the Tank is probably he's going to have to believe that he's ready to fight anyone. He's 29 years old in his physical prime. You know, he thinks he's going to be 30-0 with 28 knockouts. We'll see. Loma, Shakur, Haney, Tio Matias. That's what. But you got to realize, it's Tank weighed in at 133 today. You're saying, you know, Haney different division, Teo different division, Matias. You're talking about different divisions here. Just because Pitbull Cruz fought Tank 5 years ago at 130 some pounds, and now Pitbull is the 140 champion, you can't. Tank's not a big dude. He's 5'5.5". It's the same height as fucking the Japanese fighter anyway. He's not a big dude. So you think that he weighed in? Look what he weighed in today at. He didn't even weigh in at 135. He's given up 2 pounds, which is fucking crazy. So, like, look, he weighed in at 133 and a half at 135. You're naming fighters right now. Teofimo Lopez, 140. Matias is a huge 140. Like, what are you talking about? Now, will those fighters come down and fight Tank? Yeah. I just think for, a lot of Tank Davis's detractors come from a place because Gervonta's body, he's like an in-betweener. He's not a big dude. But there's a lot of talent around him in the upper weight classes. So we want to see him move up, dare to be great, and fight bigger guys. But screw that. I understand the rehydration clause. He's a little dude. When you meet Gervonta Davis, he's tiny. And he's not like you look, we see him cut, and we see him what he looks like on the big screen, and we see body composition and shoulder muscles and bicep muscles. But dude, his shoulders aren't wide. He's a small kid, 5'5.5". He's fighting at 133 pounds. Have you seen what Subaru Matias cuts down to make 140? Subaru Matias walks around probably at 165. Tank only walks around 145. To think that fight would ever happen, you're out of your mind. So I think more importantly, we have to be a little bit more logical when we think about using the narrative that Tank hasn't fought anybody. Look at his last 5 fights. I mean, he fought Ryan Garcia, who was undefeated. Pitbull Cruz, he beat him. Rolly Romero was undefeated. Hector Garcia might have been undefeated. When he fought Leo Santa Cruz, people were saying Leo Santa Cruz was going to watch Tank. And then Tank caught him with that gorgeous uppercut. So what I'm talking about is, remember, I'm a Frank Martin fan. You guys are pulling this out of me. I'm not even a Tank Davis fan. And I'm coming from a neutral perspective. But I appreciate you guys pulling this out of me. This is why I love live streaming. Hey, guys, I got to go to a 7-year-old's communion now. It's why you don't see me rocking the hats and wearing my hoodie. But I appreciate you. We got a big weekend of fights. I hope everyone has fun. Hopefully your fighters win, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bang, let's get after it.